Dusted half the universe into nothingness? Can't get worse, right? Right?
I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
The season finale of Loki has finally introduced us to the MCU's next big thorn in our sides, and he'll go by the name of Kang the Conqueror. Seen as He Who Remains,
Who are you?
A conqueror. He who remains.
once Sylvie wiped him off the face of the multiverse, the variants of Nathaniel Richards have been unleashed. If the source material holds any weight, the coming threat is going to be much worse than the one our hero spent 3 phases dealing with. You know, that purple guy? Let's take a look at 10 ways Kang the Conqueror will be much, much worse than the Mad Titan Thanos right now.
You're full of tricks, wizard.
Thanos may have had Eitri the Dwarf construct him a gauntlet capable of harnessing the power of the Infinity Stones. That plus a powerful spaceship and a cool double-bladed overhyped helicopter propeller. But that's the extent of Thanos' weaponry that we've seen in the MCU. While those are extremely powerful, battle-tested against the likes of Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, they would be laughed at in the presence of Kang the Conqueror. Ha-ha! The weaponry we've seen from Kang already have included the temp pads and the prune sticks, but if the comics are any indicator, the best is yet to come. Kang controls a powerful time ship, an overpowered battlesuit, and an ultra-diode ray capable of rendering someone powerless. He can render Infinity Stones useless, and likely destroys Thanos in any weapons contest. The original variant that was Nathaniel Richards was born in the 30th century in a universe where the Earth never experienced the Dark Ages. This means that Kang's very upbringing was in a highly advanced technological time period. He is a product of his time, and the best that era had to offer in terms of intelligence. Just based on the eras of their upbringing, Kang has an edge on Thanos. In the MCU, we've never seen Thanos live past the early 21st century, meaning his knowledge of the universe, history, and technology comes nowhere near the Master of Time. So far in the MCU, we've seen 2 versions of Thanos. There was the main villain who completed his goal and met his end when Thor introduced him to Stormbreaker. Ouch.
What did you do?
I went for that.
Then there was the one variant of Thanos who came from the year 2014 into the future to attempt to destroy all life itself. Both these Thanos versions have a few things in common. They both wound up in a less than living state, and both of them claim to be inevitable.
I am inevitable.
That statement was almost instantly proven false by Tony Stark, but with Kang he may actually be able to back it up. For years in the comics, no matter how many times he was defeated, Kang always comes back, sporting a new variant that would learn from the mistakes of the prior Kang. Based on the description from He Who Remains, it seems that there will always be variants of Nathaniel Richards that come to defeat the Avengers. Even in our introduction to him, his final words show us that he will succeed where Thanos fails, letting us know he'll see us soon. Half the universe gone in an instant? Ha! Sounds like child's play. Also, they all came back, so at the end of the day, Thanos has very few casualties on his hands in comparison to Kang the Conqueror. Not only did Kang win the multiversal war, most likely destroying an unbelievable amount of enemies in the process, but he's also been running things for quite some time as He Who Remains. In fact, he's so bored of doing this job that he was ready to hand it over to the 2 Lokis. The job I'm referring to is sending literally infinite amounts of variants into the void to be destroyed. Yes, Thanos spent a large majority of his life conquering worlds and destroying half the population, but he might as well be a kid with a magnifying glass playing with anthills
Insect.
compared to the conquering resume that Kang has. Thanos may have mastered the power of the Infinity Stones, but it would seem that those stones would only give him control over reality within his universe. Kang, being a technological genius from the future, has likely unlocked doorways that Thanos could never hope to find, no matter how many Infinity Stones he possesses. Kang has likely followed in his comic book counterpart's footsteps in his ability to unlock access to alternate dimensions. In the comics, the Lord Immortus version of Kang traveled to and subsequently conquered the dimension known as Limbo, setting it up as his base of operations for observation of the rest of the multiverse. We have likely already seen an adaptation of this, seeing that He Who Remains reigns over the Citadel at the end of time to observe the sacred timeline. This shows us that the Kang variants on their way have access to powers granted by places like the Dark Dimension and the Quantum Realm, which Thanos has likely never heard of. Anything that makes Kang way worse than Thanos is the company they keep. Thanos' children do not even compare. First of all, 2 of them turned against him and joined the Guardians of the Galaxy. The 4 that remain are the Black Order, and they're generally impressive for the most part. Ebony Maw seems to be one of the MCU's greatest magic users and is a technological genius. Corvus Glaive is one of the greatest fighting strategists in the universe, and Proxima Midnight and Cull Obsidian are some of the MCU's greatest fighters. That's all well and good. Too bad they don't even compare to the pet kept by He Who Remains. Alioth is literally the monster that causes the end of time. He is essentially the watchdog at the void that destroys everything in its path and cannot be destroyed. Loki and Sylvie had to use some special enchantments to get past Alioth, but were nearly reduced to nothing in the process. The Black Order is great, but I'll take Alioth 10 times out of 10. Thanos is, in a word, complicated. His lifelong purpose was to prevent in the universe the atrocities he saw on his home planet of Titan when the resources gave out and the people suffered. Noble on its face, but he chose to commit possibly greater atrocities in the process of preventing them. Thanos initially wants to go planet by planet, wiping out half the population so that the resources can be more plentiful, and eventually uses the Infinity Stones to do this on a universal scale. That is extremely complex. It requires a decade-long quest for the stones, the building up of materials, all for a very specific thing that at the end of the day is clearly more evil than the atrocities he's trying to prevent. Kang, on the other hand, is simple. His purpose is his name, the Conqueror. All he wants to do is conquer. He moves from his world to his universe to the multiverse, and becomes the greatest power ever known. It makes much more sense, and paints Kang as inherently more evil, given that his goals are purely self-motivated, placing himself at the center of everything. While the Time Stone is an incredibly powerful object, it seems to be yet another useless artifact rendered to nothing but a paperweight by the Master of Time himself.
We actually got a lot of those. Yeah, some of the guys use them as paperweights.
Thanos accomplished incredible feats such as bringing the Vision back to life. However, Thanos' brief ability to manipulate time comes nowhere close to what Kang has been able to do. He's the Master of Time for a reason. Just within the sacred timeline, he knows what'll happen at every moment up until the threshold.
We just crossed the threshold.
As He Who Remains, Kang has conquered every aspect of his reality, likely meaning that Thanos was simply a pawn in his game. Sure, Thanos brought Vision back, but only because Kang allowed it. The variants of Kang have probably learned the same overpowered time manipulation abilities, given that the newest one has also created the TVA to control the flow of time, and Thanos was barely able to scratch the surface. There's nothing scarier than a villain who is in such total control that he can take everything into his own hands. Yes, Kang uses beings like Alioth and the TVA to do his bidding, but only because he has them 100% in his pocket. Thanos has a long storied history in the MCU of allowing others to do his bidding while he just sits on a floating throne in space. He allowed Loki to wage war on New York with the Mind Stone in hand. He lent his daughters to Ronan in his quest for the Power Stone. He even told Nebula to bring all 6 Infinity Stones to him while he sat and did nothing.
What will you do?
Wait.
I believe this is the foundational flaw in Thanos' evil capability. Kang will most likely not have this, as a futuristic villain who's conquered numerous timelines more likely takes matters into his own hands. Yes, Thanos had won, but only for about 5 years until his victory was effectively reversed. The very existence of Thanos, the quest for the Infinity Stones, the creation of the Avengers, and the universe itself is a testament to the fact that although we have only just met him, Kang has already won. He Who Remains tells us of an ancient multiversal war that he essentially was the victor of. He set up the sacred timeline and controlled it from the Citadel for all time. It got to the point where Kang was bored of his own victory. Thanos, for the brief moment that he saw his goals complete, went out nearly days later, while Kang watched and laughed. Since He Who Remains warns us of the variants to come, and we see that one has already taken over the TVA, the threat of Thanos seems minuscule since Kang the Conqueror has already won. Okay, look, I personally would back down from a fight with either of these MCU villains. However, even though looks may deceive, Kang is likely to bring us a threat that Thanos came nowhere close to. Which do you think will prove to be the superior villain?